In my opening article for the platform, I touched on some of the negative aspects as well of grime that I think are important to address.
I think it's important to address the wider situation. Now, not every rapper is objectifying women, not every rapper is promoting violence, but there are undoubtedly some that, yeah, they're considered hot, but they're also pushed forward by the industry, and a lot of people have complained about that. So I think it's important to just remember that there's a context surrounding that, and basically we shouldn't just focus in on just that one little aspect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But if that wider context isn't spoken about in them songs, then I think you have to call out that sort of simplification of just that violence or the objectification.
I can think of countless numbers of times that I've been with my friend and a girl is being referred to as a ting, and I can't remember any instance when anybody has called out and said, hang on a second, because it's almost like it's something like, I don't know if it disrupts the solidarity amongst the group or something that I don't know if I've ever felt brave enough to step up and do that. I don't know if anyone's ever been in that situation when you've kind of paused for a second and you're thinking, well, hang on a second, that could be my sister, or that could be mum or auntie or someone that's being referred to.
Because obviously when we're talking about music as well, there's a certain degree of creative license, and I think it's almost more important what people do off camera and what people are actually doing, what they're actually saying when they're sitting down in interviews and when they're deciding what to do with their money. I think that's the most important thing, not what is in the songs, personally.
Akon's an example, like he profited for years of making like just pop music, didn't really have much of a message behind it, but he still made the Light in Africa thing. Don't quote me on the actual number of how much electricity he supplied to Africans, but it was something like, it was in the millions. Like
one of the members of 6-7 was saying that he's spoken to people and who have listened to his music when they're angry, and that's how they get over their anger. And obviously it's probably not the best way to deal with it, but that's just interesting that like they'll listen to like one of their tunes being angry, and then after listening to the tunes they won't be as angry, and then again that could prevent bad things happening.
I'd counter that by saying like there could be many different types of music you could listen to calm yourself, because once you start doing that as like a form of like a safety net for when you get angry, it becomes like habitual now. It's not just something you listen to, it's like you start picking up a lot of what they're saying, probably subconsciously. So yeah, even though you release it at the moment, what sticks around after is probably your mindset to it. So yeah, I suppose in the moment it's probably going to stop someone from doing something like, you know, a bit irrational or whatever, but I suppose
in the long run
it's not helping like their attitude towards sort of other black males.
The whole idea of being a young black man is to be part of the culture, to be part of that kind of community, and you're kind of like trying to find out, you know, what suits you. But then again, in these songs, you're looking at kind of the same examples and standards, which a lot of times, unfortunately, are quite bad. But again, it's really hard to ignore because bit by bit, you know.
Yeah. I think you have to train yourself to ignore it.
But what we can do as black men, not saying that there's no responsibility, because there is on everyone, I believe, is, again, as listeners, we can control that. Or we can try and control that. We can try and have an influence on that. I think that responsibility is not just on black men, because as the young lady mentioned, it's not just young men who go to Stormzy concerts, not just young men who, you know, who go in clubs and who be dancing to these kinds of music. So within our own community, then yeah, we can address that. And I think back to the very first thing that you asked me is what is one solution, how do we address that? I think a way towards that is to have our own system, or our own channels, our own platforms that you're building yourself, that we can rely on to not try and portray certain things that we think are negative.